it was by tradition that I attended Mass every Sunday. But as I got older, and especially after I had my kids, it was very important. I became very close to God, and I found out in Mass about His wonders and His goodness, and so I started understanding it more.
Para los católicos, la misa dominical es el acto más importante de la semana. Recordamos la muerte y la resurrección del Señor. Participar en la misa nos forma como discípulos cristianos y fortalece nuestra relación con Dios, con cada uno de nosotros y con el mundo.
When we participate in the celebration of Mass, it's a moment for us to acknowledge that I want to come and to give praise and thanksgiving to God.
I think that participating in Sunday Mass is the most important action for Catholics because it is where we receive our truest identity.
For Catholics, participating in the Sunday Mass is very important because it's practically the connection between God and our life here on earth. And it's important for all of us to be connected with God, community, and the world.
It's the Second Vatican Council that reminds us that our participation in the liturgy is not just a nice idea that makes for good celebration of the liturgy, but it's our right and responsibility as members of the baptized, that this is part of what it is to be a member of the baptized, is that we participate in the liturgy.
When we begin to look at baptism itself, what we find is that what happens in baptism is that we are immersed into this eternal love relationship. In the Mass, if I understand from my baptism that this is what God has given to me, in turn, I want to return thanks. I want to worship this God. I want to give thanks to this God.
I love that our church is full of rituals and traditions, some more ancient than others, but I feel like no matter where I go to church, knowing that they're consistent and there are parts of the Mass I can sort of count on, that I know the liturgy, I can appreciate the liturgy.
La misa involucra repetir una serie de acciones que se llaman rituales. A través de signos y símbolos, los rituales captan nuestros sentidos al contar la historia de lo que creemos y al encaminarnos a vivir como pueblo de Dios.
Ritual is very important to us as Catholics. Any believer is going to have certain rituals. We constantly engage in ritual behavior in our lives because it gives us a sense of assurance, a sense of completeness, and there's something pleasing about entering into it again and again.
I think that when we go to Mass, all of the ritual, the structural Mass prepares us to become more and more conscious of the actions that are taking place.
The whole of the Church's liturgy is about symbol, it's about ritual. You know, we do things that are repeated. We make use of tangible things that speak to greater, profound realities.
Ritual are actions that mean something, actions that point to something deeper. All of the interrelated actions that occur during the Mass point to the most important action that ever occurred in the history of our Christian faith, namely the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ. We call this the Paschal Mystery.
At the Mass, we, of course, are always celebrating the Paschal Mystery, which is the death and resurrection of Christ. And as we do that, as we consistently celebrate that Sunday after Sunday, it helps us to understand really what our lives should be all about. It's not just about being nice to one another. It's about giving of our very lives, our very selves, in the many ways that is possible.
En la misa, Cristo se nos presenta de 4 formas: la persona del sacerdote, la palabra de Dios proclamada, la asamblea que reza y canta, la Eucaristía, específicamente su cuerpo y su sangre.
Every sacrament, every liturgy is an encounter with the living Christ. In the Word, in the community, in the minister, in the Eucharist.
we really understand that Christ is present in the body as a body, and we are that body.
Although there are indeed ways that we can enter into communion with God on a very personal level through the Mass, we can never overlook the community aspects of it, that we come together as a people of faith.
So for me, it's a live event, for my family as well, to be in the community, to come and worship God, to sing, to get communion, to get to know more people in the community, and just fill my heart with my faith and my love for God.
Participar plena, consciente y activamente en la misa nos lleva a un encuentro más profundo con Dios y con el misterio de la salvación.
If we give ourselves over to the ritual and with purpose, with deliberateness, with intention, how can you not come out of that changed?
The liturgy is never dead. It's never boring, but it always reflects the dynamism of the people of God and the levels of culture and faith that we bring together.
Well, I think Catholics have gone through a very important shift in their own self-understanding, from being members in a church to being disciples in a community. And the Eucharist is where discipleship gets fed. So it's like if you're not at Mass, you're missing the key thing that you need to be yourself.
God is always the one who is calling us to draw closer to Him. God is always the one who's inviting us to friendship and intimacy with Him. And so, the desire that we have on a Sunday morning to go to church is God Himself turning the waters in our daily lives.